Chapter 15. The Library. Max Ernest was so preoccupied with the curious case of the walking mummy, the actual case, not the graduation speech, that he almost forgot that he had detention on Monday morning. Luckily, when he tried to sit down at the nuts table at recess, Glob and Daniel were there to remind Max Ernest of his pitiable fate. They felt so sorry for him that they fortified him with a new pizza-flavored energy bar and an old Silver Surfer comic, respectively, before steering him towards his place of confinement in the school library. The library had once been Max Ernest's favorite place on campus. When he was there in the lower grades, he hadn't yet become friends with Cass or Yoji. The books in the library provided a refuge from the confusing world of the playground. In those days, other kids always seemed to him to be speaking in code, a code he could not crack. No matter how many methods he applied, books, on the other hand, he could rely on to explain themselves. And if a book used a word he didn't know, he could always look up the definition. He used to sit in the corner of the library reading and rereading first the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, later Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Edgar Allan Poe. As he read, he would imagine he was an apprentice investigator hired to assist the detective heroes, never guessing that he would soon be solving mysteries of his own as a member of the top-secret international organization, the Trace Society. Today he had entered the library. He could see hardly any trace of the room he remembered. The old librarian Pam had retired a year before, and the budget cuts meant that she had yet to be replaced. Gone were Pam's more erratic shelf labels like books to read when you're sick, and books for boys who like bugs, and books that smell like old shoes. The only poster that remained on the wall was a strict admonishment of the virtues rather than pleasure of reading. In any event, there was no question of Max Ernest picking up a new mystery to read right now. Whether he liked it or not, he was more than sufficiently occupied with the mystery already at the mummy mystery, and a doozy of a mummy mystery at that. Miss Johnson came out from behind the librarian's desk as he walked in. "Sit," she pointed to the table where Cass was already seated and writing in her notebook. "Dr. Nefesto hadn't yet told me what happened at the museum, but I understand things did not go well. I'm sure I will learn all the details soon. In the meantime, I want you to work on your graduation speech and reflect on the terrible fates that await you should I choose to not let you graduate. Not only will you have to live the current year with me, but you will, in all likelihood, be dooming yourself to a lifetime of crime and poverty. Homelessness, hunger, early death. These are the things you can look forward to." Max Ernest nodded, gulping. "You forgot prison. Where do you think you are now? The rest assured I will be back to check on you. So no funny business," she added as she walked out. Max Ernest hadn't seen Cass since watching the video, and there were so many things he wanted to say when he walked up to her, but instead of blurting everything out at once, he extended his hand. "Shake? Why?" asked Cass, shutting her notebook. She couldn't remember the last time they'd shaken hands, if they ever had. "Just do it." Barley Cass took his hand and then jerked hers away. "What was that? Did you take my ring?" "No. Look." He opened his palm to reveal a round metal disc with a button in the middle. Cass looked at it as though it might be a trigger for a bomb. "And that is a hand buzzer. It was a prank, a very old school. You know, like a whoopee cushion or a squirt ring. Anyway, I've got a spring inside, and I thought maybe that's how the Ibis ring works. How about that?" "So you think the ring is a prank too?" asked Cass dubiously. "A joke ring from ancient Egypt?" Max Ernest shrugged. "Well, Dr. Moon liked cartoons, right? Maybe he liked pranks too." He wasn't about to tell her he got the idea from his dream. "Where is Yoyoji, by the way?" "No idea. Maybe he got so spooked by the idea of a walking mummy that he's dropped out of school and we're never going to see him again." "Yoyoji? I doubt it." They were silent for a moment. For reasons that are only partially to do with a walking mummy and an ancient secret, talking wasn't easy between them, as it had been even a short time before. Max Ernest eyed her notebook. "Is that your you-know-what in there? I mean the hieroglyphs?" Cass hesitated. Blink once for yes, twice for no. Cass rolled her eyes. "That's okay. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to show it to me. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do." He had practiced these words in his head and felt that he had delivered them with admirable calm. Cass looked at him. You get that it's not because I don't want you to, right? You don't? I mean, it's not. Max Ernest couldn't look at her in the eye. No, you dummy, I haven't. You noticed I keep asking you for help even though I can't really talk to you about it? I can't do it without you. You know that. You were the one who found the ring in the trunk, remember? I didn't think you noticed, said Max Ernest, trying not to choke up. Actually, if you wanted to know the truth, I didn't think you really wanted to be my friend anymore. What's that? Ridiculous. They both laughed. Okay, now that's settled. So what do you think it is? Asked Cass. Max Ernest shook his head. I have no idea, but the walking mummy, they can't help feeling he must have something to do with it. Cass looked at her friend in surprise. He didn't usually put much stock into feelings, only facts. So then you think the mummy really came back to life? She asked. You, Mr. Rational? I didn't say that exactly. Hey, wait, I thought of something, said Cass excitedly. Quickly, she opened her notebook and peeked inside, careful not to let Max Ernest see what she was looking at. There's a hieroglyph that looks like feet. Could that mean walk? Yes, there's a hieroglyph that looks like feet. There's the one that looks pretty much like everything. And sometimes it means walk. I think it can also mean run, cross, move, go, whatever makes sense for where it is. Cass wrote notes as Max Ernest talked. Forget I'm telling you this, she said. But for a long time I thought the last hieroglyph of it looked like a letter V. But now I'm thinking it's a very short, I drew a V with feet. Maybe the feet were an important part of the hieroglyph. It just didn't realize it. So you're thinking that you know what is about walking, and therefore that's what made the mummy walk? I thought about an ibis or tra. Max Ernest couldn't hide his skepticism. So then, what's your theory about what it is? Asked Cass, closing her notebook. I know you have one. You always do. Max Ernest shrugged. In truth, he did not have a theory about what the secret was. Not currently. For a long time he had suspected the secret might have something to do with the legendary Philosopher's Stone and the magical substance that the Holy Grail of alchemy that turned lead into gold and made people immortal. For more recently, however, he had begun to doubt this theory. The Philosopher's Stone was a European myth. The secret, on the other hand, had originated from ancient Egypt. Didn't it therefore make sense to look at the secret in Egyptian mythology? He thought he might have hit on something when he read about the Book of Thoth, a book said to contain all the spells in the universe. But then what would the secret be? The secret came from the Book of Thoth. It literally could be about anything. No, I know it's hard to believe, but I really don't have a theory, he said. Yahoo! For a second, neither of them recognized the grilly girl bouncing through the door with a sheepish Yoyogi in tow. Hey guys, did you miss me? Amber, Cass and Max Ernest cried at the same time. Amber appeared transformed, and yet the most astonishing thing about her transformation was how much like herself she still looked. She just was a better, more beautiful version of the Amber they'd known for years. All traces of acne gone, her skin was smoother than ever, her new hair hint of pink on her cheeks, and the new dewiness to her lips. Her eyes sparkled, her smile effervescent, her hair shimmered, and when she tossed it, it seemed to float in slow motion like a shampoo commercial brought to life. There was something dazzling and unreal about her. She was a mirage of youthful perfection. What happened to you? Asked Max Ernest. We heard you went blind or something. Is that what people were saying? Amber laughed. A tinkly laugh that chilled her schoolmates without their quite knowing why. I just had a little cold, that's all. I'm sorry to keep my friends out of the detention. Miss Johnson said I could borrow him for a moment. Amber smiled at Yoji. I know it was torture for him, right, Yoji? Yoji didn't say anything, but his cheeks flushed red. Borrow him? He's not a library book, Cass said, stone-faced. It's just that he's so good with graphics and computers and stuff. I need to make a poster for grad night, said Amber briefly. See? She held up a flyer with a picture of King Tut's mask on it. Doesn't it look awesome? Ridiculous, right? Max Ernest noted silently that Amber had used Yoji's word without apparent effort. Oh yeah, totally ridiculous, admitted Cass, obviously noting the same thing, not so silently. The theme is going to be King Tut, Amber bitterly continued. You know, dance like an Egyptian? We've been practicing. She demonstrated bending her arms and wrists right angles and thrusting one hand forward and one hand back. Come on, Yoji, show them. Blushing even harder, Yoji put his hands in the position and started doing the Egyptian dance. Amber smiled at Cass and Max Ernest. Cool, huh? Max Ernest winced. It wasn't that dancing like an Egyptian was necessarily uncool. Max Ernest didn't feel qualified to make such judgments one way or the other. It was seeing Yoji reduced to following Amber's orders. It was more disturbing than when Yoji had been a group of 17th century samurai. Why couldn't you guys try? Amber suggested. Cass and Max Ernest shook their head. Not a chance. When Amber's attention directed to the others, Yoji pointed at Amber as if to say, Don't look at me, look at her. But somehow it only made it worse. Max Ernest looked at Cass to see how she was responding to the humiliation of their friend. Her face remained calm, but her ears were fiery crimson. Indeed, a lot of thoughts were racing through Cass's head. At the moment, most of them unrepeatable in polite company. But one question was paramount. What had happened to Amber? Speaking of the dance, do you guys have any Egyptian stuff? Asked Amber casually, like maybe some costumes or something left from the Egyptian unit. My costume was paper, and it ripped when both my parents tried to take it, said Max Ernest truthfully. What about you, Cass? Do you have anything? Asked Amber. Cass shook her head, staring at Amber. The only other person Cass knew to have changed so dramatically was their friend Benjamin Blake, and his transformation had been courtesy of the Midnight Sun. Come to think of it, the new Amber reminded Cass very much of the young Miss Mavis. Maybe some jewelry, Amber persisted, like a bracelet or a ring or something. What do you want a ring for? Asked Cass, a vague suspicion beginning to form in her mind. Oh, I was just thinking, like a prize for the queen of the dance or something. Not for me, if that's what you were thinking, said Amber with a laugh. Why? Do you have any Egyptian ring you could loan us? It would be awesome if you did. While Amber spoke, Yoji kept motioning behind his back. At first, Cass thought he was still doing the Egyptian dance, but then she realized Yoji was trying to point at something. After looking Amber up and down, then up again, Cass figured out what it was. The silver tote bag hanging from Amber's shoulder. Hey Amber, where did you get that bag? She asked. The top of the bag was a tag bearing the insignia of the Black Sun, the words Solar Zero LLC. I got it in, actually, I don't remember. Amber stammered, her bubbly ease momentarily frizzing. I think it was my mom's. I could try and get one for you if you like it, she added, recovering. That's okay, I just thought I recognized the name. Cass looked significantly at her friends as Amber walked away quickly. Max Ernest's eyes widened. That's it, I knew it was a weird name. 0 in 24-hour time is midnight. Cass nodded, and solar means... The three friends looked at each other, acknowledging the awful fact. Solar Zero LLC was the Midnight Sun, which meant the Midnight Sun had financed the mummy exhibit, which meant the mummy's arrival in their lives and his mysterious departure was no coincidence at all. It was something much worse.